You've asked for it, so here we are. We are going to be looking at a DPS damage dealing Wonder. How would you build Wonder if you want him to be a primary damage dealer? Hi, my name is Platypus. This is Persona 5X. Let's jump into it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over the stats here. Now, when you're doing this, obviously, I think some of the first things you do is you level these as high as you can, right? Depending on how many of the yellow schema points you have, you might want to change how you do it. I personally prefer this one here, the Enhanced Persona, because this gives them their base skills plus, which is usually their signatures. And while this is more flexibility, you could put any skill, like not any skill, but you can put a lot of skills on any persona. That will level this up, but I actually prefer this one myself. However, I am also... I leveled it wrong, so we're gonna be fine there, but typically I would take this one up to 4 first. As far as the HP, you know, you pump all these. You need to do this one before you do the other ones, so I would absolutely max out the HP, then you want to max out your attack, and then of course the defense I think is good, but before I max out the defense, I'm actually going to take my percent attack, I'm going to take my percent crit rate, I'm going to take my crit multiplier. Now that I have that, I am going to just make sure I come back and finish up my defense up into about there. I think level 13 is fine. And then I'm going to take some HP percent as well. Like, of course, you might want to change this up a little bit, a little here, a little there. I need to still fuse more personas at my current level to max this out. Maybe I'd knock a couple levels off of maybe this for more defensive stats if I'm feeling a little bit too squishy, but roughly I don't really care about the HP recovery, the ailment accessory. I don't really care about these or even the defense that much. I'm here to deal damage with my Wonder, you know? So this is roughly what I would do. In fact, you know what? Let's take that one as well. Now, when it comes to the weapon, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Right now, there's 2 daggers in the game, right? I mean, I think you can get a dagger before you get either of these, but effectively, there's 2 daggers in the game. You have the support one, you have the offensive one. Now, the offensive one, I think, is very powerful. I do not think it is as good as the all-in dagger in general, but it is still very good. In case you forgot what it does, it increases attack by 46.7%. I mean, it's gonna depend on the forge level, starts at 28, ends at 56. But this is the important part. For each persona of a different attribute equipped, increase damage by 12%. So up to 3 times, and I believe that is 12% where it caps out. It is where it caps out, so 36% damage, meaning if you are going DPS Wonder, you always want to make sure you have 3 different attributes equipped. If you're doing all-in Wonder, it actually doesn't matter at all what your attributes are, but you need to have 3 different attributes equipped here. So you got to pick your favorite curse, your favorite wind, whatever it is. We'll go over those in a second. Then after knocking a foe down, decrease the target's defense by 30% for 1 turn. This is where I think Wonder is better in like the trials, like the tactical trials, because you can use him to deal damage and knock things down and decrease their defense. When you're starting to get to like other bigger bosses, a lot of them are immune to being knocked down. So this aspect of the weapon doesn't get put to great use, but don't get me wrong, it is still a very good weapon. That's a lot of attack and a lot of damage increase. So that's exactly what you're gonna do there. Now, if we visit the Velvet Room, so which personas should you be using? So I'm gonna give you a couple here from ranks 4 and 5, the ones that I think are the best. We're gonna go more than 3, but I wanted to put the standout ones that seemed very powerful that could deal a lot of damage. They're not really supporty, but some of them have a little bit of support. So very first one here, honestly, Big Boy, the guy we start with, he is just fantastic. So if you look here, once you keep ranking him up, right, you start getting like just increased attack 20%. At the start of battle, you mark a foe. When an ally attacks a marked foe, it increases their attack. And when the user attacks a marked foe, you deal bonus gun damage. This is insane. Hunting 2 is so good. And when the fight starts, right, you mark someone. And in case you don't know what mark does, it decreases defense by 24.3%. Obviously, this will go up. It's not the biggest defense down, but look at this. This is a 166% attack to 1 foe and a 75% chance to inflict marked, which decreases their defense. And again, whenever an ally attacks a mark, they're getting more attack. You have a bunch of attack here. You could even squeeze, you know, some other attacks onto this guy. Let's say you want to get whatever, this, that, or the other thing. You know, you could take off, seize the day, put something else on. Very flexible, powerful persona that is a great combination of offense. So he has a lot going for him. Great offense, great support, like semi-support skills, boosting everyone else's attack, lowering the defense, which is another form of boosting attack. And he's a gun element, so it's very easy to not accidentally bring 2 gun element personas. Like if you look at him, you're not gonna like bring accidentally 2 gun elements. It's just not going to happen. So it's very easy for you to ensure you're taking 3 different types of elements. Now, as we get into the rank 4 personas here, I honestly think there is not a lot of standout great ones for dealing damage. That's not to say that they're not all good if you need an element, right? Like if you really need wind, this guy is good. He's not one of the ones I'm highlighting here, but I'm just giving you an example. This guy is good. He does extra wind damage, or sorry, he does extra, when you hit him with wind, it decreases their defense, which is good because it stacks with this, so you're lowering their defense by a good amount. I think he's good. And if you need wind damage, this is absolutely something you should be considering. But I wanted to go with like the actual standout powerful ones. And so the very first one here for me is Hellbiker. This guy has been absolutely phenomenal. So on top of having ignition, where it increases your attack and then increases damage to burning foes, and then when using a skill, increases users' attack by 10% for each burning foe. So this last part of it, where you get more attack for each burning foe, is pretty much always going to be at least 10%, which is very good, but it can go up to 30%. So you're getting more damage, more damage, more damage. That is all super good, but also his signature here, man, is not working. So we got to go back in, do it again. Deal fire damage to 1 foe, and right now it's 72.9%. But if they're burning, you do that again. So you're doing 146% damage. So this is absolutely huge. He also does have the trigger happy thing. I'd probably take this off, but crit rate on range attacks is good. But really, as far as these things, like right, these are pretty flexible, but this is something that only he can get. This is a very powerful skill. This is also very unique on him. That's a lot of damage. Absolutely one of the best assassins, especially in rank 4. But there are still 2 more in rank 4 I have to talk about. Now, these are both the highest rarity, so they are the hardest to get. You can see here, these are like common, whatever, rare and legendary or whatever. Anubis and White Rider. We're going to talk about White Rider first because he's more likely to be able to get him. Anubis, you have to get the social rank up, so that by the time you get him, you'll be in rank 5, but I actually think he's still very good. But White Rider is pretty much, this is like Joker's best friend. This is like such a powerful, good persona. Why is he good? Because he has a self-fulfilling prophecy here. Increase ailment accuracy 20%. That hasn't been particularly relevant to me, I'll be honest, although it is nice. You could throw on some sort of CC on him and it'll still be good. But after using a skill on a foe, increase its curse damage taken by 6.7% for each stack of curse on the target for 1 turn, up to 4 times. So, I mean, let's just round this to 7%, 714. This is roughly 27.6% more damage, more curse damage every turn, assuming that you can get up to the 4 stacks of curse. So this just makes Joker deal way more damage. And if you're just using Sumi because you don't have Joker, this is still a lot of extra damage on him as well. But again, it's this unique here. Deal curse damage to all foes equal to almost 70%, I mean 67% of attack, and inflict 1 to 2 curse stacks. So this is a great AoE. It does reasonable damage. It does curse stacks, which is triggers his passive. And it does percent-based damage, and they're taking more damage. He's just honestly kind of a goat when it comes to dealing AoE damage, especially if you have Joker. This is like a super way to buff Joker. Now, this is a little more narrow because this is not necessarily what you, if you're not running Joker, you don't necessarily want to run White Rider. So he's a little more niche, but this is something you should not be skipping in general. But my favorite rank 4, it was Hell Rider, and now it is Anubis. Anubis here, I brought him up to rank 3 right away. So we'll just read his, can I read his base form? I can't. But basically, it's increase attack by 16.6%. After dealing bless damage at rank 1, grant the user 1 to 2 blessings, and after dealing curse damage, inflict 1 to 2 curses. Now, let's go to Overclock 2. This is where it gets crazy, although it's good at all levels. Increase attack by the same amount. After dealing bless damage, you get 2 blessings. This is very, very good. This is very synergistic with some of the characters that care about how many bless stacks you have. And it's honestly a little bit of a self-healing thing. It's just pretty good anyway. It's great. But in addition to the 2 bless stacks, you also just have a 50% chance to inflict curse on the target. That's pretty nice. I like this whole first part of the ability a lot, but where I think he kind of pops off is on the second one here, especially for the purposes of this video, less supporty. More damagey. After dealing curse damage, you always inflict 2 curses on the main target, and you have a 50% chance to gain the blessing. And then when attacking a foe inflicted with curse, you increase your attack by 27%. So you attack them, you do 2 curse stacks, you do 27% more attack, and you have your 16.6% more attack, and you have a 50% chance to get a blessing. And this is before we even do the attack. When he has a unique attack here, Underworld Judgment. Deal curse damage to one foe equal to 148.5% of attack. That's a pretty meaty attack right there. This is powerful. It's not broken yet, but it is very powerful. And then when a skill is used, for each blessing stack on the user or curse stack on the target, increase damage by 10% up to 4 times. So if they have 2 curse, you have 2 blessing. They have 4 curse, you have no blessing. Any combination. As long as there's 4 stacks between the two of you, then you get 40% more damage on this. Now, I don't know exactly how the stacks, if it goes to the total damage or if it brings it up to 180%. I don't know exactly how it stacks, but all I know is 40% more damage on a 148% attack is a lot. That is as much as basically Ryuji is doing, I think, with his super ability. Although I'll admit it's not a guaranteed crit. This is not a direct comparison to Ryuji. The point is, I'm just trying to say this is a big hit, okay? I love this character. So he has a built-in, probably best single target curse attack that you can get on Wonder. He has the 2 buffs that increase curse and bless damage. He has a good AoE built-in curse attack, and he has a good single target bless attack. This one's fine. It's not great, but as long as the enemy is weak to either curse or light, this guy is your man, and I do recommend fusing him ASAP, so you should get that social link up. Now, as we get to rank 5, this is, again, kind of where I want to emphasize that you should use, if you're going for damage, you should use whatever element you need first, right? So, obviously, if you need fire and ice, you're going to use the queen here. If you need specifically gun, I mean, you have your normal guy already, but right, Horus does light, although I would use power if you need light. So, like, even though this isn't a character that I'm like is absolutely broken, they are very good, especially if you need wind damage, because she's all about buff and wind damage. But I'm trying to highlight the things that I think stand out as interesting or powerful. That could be good if it's not just exploiting a weakness. It could be good in lots of situations. So I've talked about this guy once before, the weird ass snake thing here. But if you level up this guy here, increase critical damage by 17.4%. So it's already not too hard to get Wonder's crit pretty high, because I think you have a base crit chance, and then he gets like an additional 20% from his skill board. Then it's not hard, you can get Revolution, and then there's stuff like, you can get all kinds of things to boost it, which is great. And then, so he gets increased critical damage and increased foes critical damage taken by 18%. This is just always there. I assume that this is one of those things with the translations, it's just hard to test properly. Is this improve the whole party's critical damage to a target? Or is this when you deal critical damage, they're also taking more critical damage? I don't know exactly how that works, but all I know is that when you crit, you deal more damage, and when you crit them, they take more damage, so it's a double dipping. And if the foe is shocked, it increases it by 11% more. And let's not forget, shocked increases your chance to crit someone. So shock is probably the weakest of the elemental ailments in general. The higher your crit chance gets, the less good it is. But especially at this stage of the game, when you're not getting guaranteed crits, getting more likely to crit is great. And so you're getting the extra crit damage, you're getting to deal the extra crit damage, you're doing shocked, which helps you trigger this, and the shock also increases the effect by even more. So it's just like a bunch of great abilities here. He does have a reasonable single target attack. It is not broken, but it is pretty good, and it makes it easier. It's pretty easy to shock him. But again, you can look for pretty much anything. Nothing about his ability here requires him to use electrical damage. So you can put on any strong single target attack here, and as long as you're critting, this is pretty darn good. It's definitely what I like, and honestly, I like having electric break too. It's kind of a neat little skill. So I think that guy is kind of a uniquely powerful character. So the last two I want to highlight are actually Pizuzu, and I know it's another curse, guys, the third curse guy of this video. I honestly think curse is just a little pushed as far as DPS goes. It seems to there's not a lot of like curse characters that have really good support abilities, doesn't seem like. Now, I actually think he might just be, I don't know if this is basically if you're level 50 and you can't get Anubis yet. I think he is better, but also kind of worse. It kind of depends. So increase attack by 17%. When attacking a foe with a skill, 60% chance to inflict 1 curse. So it's not, Anubis does 100% for 2 curses, and then he increases your damage and sometimes gives you a bless. That's better. But the big distinction here is that you then deal the curse damage. So if you have like 5 stacks, 6 stacks of curse on an enemy, this will then trigger it, and you'll do that 6% of their life in addition to it every time you attack. So while I don't think Pizuzu is better than Anubis on average, even though he's a higher rank, I do think he is maybe better in an AoE situation, just because he has more flat stats, and Anubis isn't like super good. He has mostly good single target stuff. But also sometimes you don't have Anubis yet because you don't have the social link, and then Pizuzu is good. But really, this guy, bro, this guy slaps. Byakko, talk about a persona that freaking slaps. I think I've talked about him before in a recent video, but he gets 12.5% crit rate. That's already very good. You wanna be critting. That's a bunch of free damage. At the end of the turn, gain fighting spirit. So what's important about this is if you say you go 3 turns, you get 3 stacks of fighting spirit, you switch them out, you won't have the fighting spirit on your other character. But when you switch back to him, you will still be at the 3 fighting spirit stack. So if you have to switch to heal, switch to buff, switch to exploit a weakness, you will not reset your fighting spirit stacks. They will maintain when you switch and switch out. So gain fighting spirit. Fighting spirit increases your attack by 11.5% and critical rate by 1.2%. After defeating a foe, you gain 2 fighting spirit, and it goes up to 6 times. So every turn you're getting 1, and every turn you kill someone, you're going to get the 1 and you're going to get the 2. So it's pretty fast to get up to 6 stacks. On boss stages, it's obviously slower. You want to keep this guy out for a long time, but I'm telling you, the 12% crit rate plus the 1.2 times 6, which is what, I don't know, 7.2%, plus you're getting like 69% bonus damage, all here. This is very good. And then he also has Sharp Claws, which is a 133% attack, which is good. And if their HP is below 50%, you just do increased damage, 40% increased damage. Again, it's the Anubis thing. It's very good. I believe he does come with Agility Master. I don't think I taught him this. Physical boost. I actually think he does have Ice Boost too. I think he has an Ice skill as part of his kit. I took it off. I don't care about that. We're Sharp Claws in all day, every day. He even has a pretty good highlight. It's just a single target damage, but when you have as much attack as this guy gives you, it feels like it hits harder than most other highlights, although typically Wonder's highlights aren't super busted at this stage anyway. But yeah, this guy, I mean, mine right now has 254 attack, which is kind of crazy as far as the personas go. I mean, if I look at another persona that's at level 70, I don't know, even Pizuzu, does he have as much? 183, right? And Pizuzu, I think, is very strong as well. But yeah, this guy absolutely slaps. Now, there are some other ones here. Again, these two are both going to require social links, and they're even further ahead where I don't have access to them. And I've skipped some units that I think are good, like Horus is really good in an AoE situation. Power is really good at single target. If they're below 50% life, he does an absurd amount of damage. But having to get someone below 50% could be annoying, so maybe he's your secondary character. You know, you could be running him, and you could be running him, and then you could be running like Anubis or something. So, like, there's a lot of combinations, right? These aren't the only personas that are worth using, but I wanted to highlight ones that I want to make sure you're reading. A lot of people just see all the personas, and they just kind of like, whatever, they glaze over them. These ones are definitely ones you should be thinking about using. And honestly, if you're still in the early part of the game and you're looking for personas that deal good damage, you cannot go wrong with your main guy here. He is relevant, I think, for the entire game. I will give a special shout out to Leon Sidhe here. I think she's a very good damage dealer. She does this great AoE attack, 66.6%. May not sound like a lot, but it hits them all and it lowers their defense. And when she lowers their defense, she also does an additional hit of a 42% attack. So this is really like a 100% AoE attack, which is kind of crazy. The reason she's not still super relevant is because her level is hard capped. If she could get up to level 80 and this could level up an additional time, I still think to this day she would be one of the best personas. But with the lower level cap, she's just not that good, but she will absolutely carry you earlier on. And it's honestly a great element to have a bunch of. So here is an example of a of a Wonder I might actually bring with me in my party here. Let's move that out of the way, right? I'm using the damage dagger and I am using Anubis, although I wouldn't lead with Anubis. We'd get him out of there. I would lead with this guy probably to get the defense down. And so I have a good, just super powerful persona here for dealing single target damage, but also debuffs while also buffs the allied team. When I feel like I could switch in and maybe get a kill on somebody, then I could go here, start getting those combat stacks and more convert from buffing the team to instead dealing damage to myself. And then I have Anubis here, which is kind of to cover weaknesses, right? He could do a lot of darkness damage, he could do a lot of light damage, and you could throw in some other elements on him too. But really, there's also going to be a flex slot here, right? It's up to you if you want to bring a little bit more support, if you want to bring a little more buffing, you know, healing, buffing, different element coverage. You want to bring a fire person, so you can always light someone on fire. You want to bring a heavy fire, you know, so don't feel free to mess with this, but these are 3 different elements, right? This is physical, this is gun, and the element of gun, otherwise known as the American element, and this is curse. So this will give you your full boosts, and you're going to be doing a lot of damage as Wonder. Are you going to be beating Joker? Why are we talking crazy, right? Can't you just be happy? All right, maybe you don't have Joker and you want Wonder to be the protagonist. All right, there we are. We got it. Anyway, guys, that's all for this one. Much love for platypuses, for platypus. I'll see you on the flip-flops. Bye!